Okay. Tell me a little bit about you.
I have just written a book called An Invitation to Shine From Invisible to Invincible. It came from an invitation I was given to step into my shining that I really took seriously. In the process, this book unfolded. It required me looking at all the ways that I dimmed my light and looking at all the work that I have done over the last 25 years to get to this point. I live in Panama, the country. I've just recently bought a vacation home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I grew up. And it's interesting because all the work that I've done since I left Tulsa 40 years ago, I never imagined it would bring me back to Tulsa. I'm excited because the work that I've been doing, I'm able to bring it here to Tulsa. You want to know how much healing work you've done and how far you've gone on your journey, you go back to where it all began, right? There's a song called Always 17 in my hometown. It's very easy for us to fall back into the old patterns and forgetting who we are when we get back into, around family or people that knew us at certain ages. Coming back to Tulsa, I've reconnected with my mother after a few years. She's in assisted living, and we've had some really sweet moments. It feels nice to be able to be here with her. I'm not with her every day, but I'm here for longer periods so I can pop in, have some time with her, make sure she's doing okay, and then I go back to honoring my capacity. And my capacity right now is not to be here full time. I'm very fortunate and blessed that my husband and I can do both. So that's a little bit about me. What intrigued me was your question on addiction. And what I wish someone had told me 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when I first tried to get off of antidepressants is that they're addictive. I had no idea. I had tried to get off several times over the course of 15 years and never could. The brain zaps, the physical sensations of trying to get off the medication, not to mention the darkness and the places that it took me were quite overwhelming. And as a yoga teacher and having a wellness practice for many years, it felt like a stigma that I needed to get off of them, but I never could. Because every time I'd get off of them, I would be worse than where I was when I thought I needed them. So I started doing my research and found that antidepressants are not designed for long-term use. They're for short-term. But most of us don't know that. We think we're on them for the rest of our lives. Not everybody has withdrawals like I did, but mine were pretty severe. My son actually had to come sit with me during a part of that because while I've never been addicted to heroin or any of those we think of with addictions, the shaking, the brain zaps, the physical discomforts, the fear, it was quite overwhelming.
All your symptoms worse.
Yeah. And what I learned in the process, I knew to taper off of them. So I thought, okay, I'll cut this in half. Well, that was too much. And I have since learned that you can go to the pharmacist, let them know that you want to get off of this, and they can give you a more controlled tapering dose so that the withdrawals are not as severe. I was so determined to get off of them that I thought, surely I can't be the only one that has suffered getting off of antidepressants. So I started doing some research and I found a place in California that offered a residential stay, but it was more medicine. And I didn't want more medicine. And I found a place in Costa Rica that used iboga for addiction, which is a plant medicine from Africa. Iboga has been in the news quite a bit lately, especially in Texas, for its uses in PTSD and addictions. I did some research on it. This particular place their focus was not addictions to hardcore medications, but specifically for antidepressants. And as as life would have it, I was going to be in Costa Rica with my son. So I called them, and they were all on vacation because it was the start of rainy season. And I was like, oh, darn, dang it. I was really upset because I really felt like I felt something. And I had never done any kind of plant medicine or psychedelic, or I didn't even smoke pot. So this felt like a really big deal for me,
Yeah.
that this is a possibility. Well, they called me back and they said, you know what? All of our people are in town or in the country. We're going to help you with this. And so they called everybody back. So I did my trip with my son in Costa Rica, and I had gotten down to a quarter of a dose. And I was in Taco. The place I was going was in Nasara, which was quite a drive. And they were sending a driver to pick me up on Wednesday. This was on a Monday that my son left. I have to give him credit because he left his mom in a foreign country, getting ready to take her last dose of a medication he had seen the effects of the withdrawals, but he trusted, he knew how important it was for me. And, probably also knows I'm a little on the wild side too. So I took my last dose, and they told me if I had any problems with withdrawals to give them a call, that they would come pick me up early if need be. I had taken my last dose the night before. That Monday was fine. I think Tuesday I kind of started feeling a little, and there's a lot of fear too. You get on these medications and you rely on them, and then the thought of not having them can be a little frightening. At least it was for me. They did come pick me up early because I was going into withdrawals. And they take me to this beautiful yoga resort in Nasara, Costa Rica. It was open air. It had a beautiful view. It was in the jungle. To help me get through the withdrawals, he called it a microdose. It was actually a medidose, I found out later. So it was like half of what a full dose would have been. Not ever having been on any kind of psychedelics, any experience like this, I didn't know what to experience. I do remember asking him about the purge. He dismissed it. So I took the medicine in this beautiful room, and the pictures on the wall started morphing. I started understanding art a little bit differently too, where some of our, people's art designs came from. I had a really interesting experience. There was a dog that came in with me. I don't know if the dog was ever really real, but he sat with me. I don't know how he got in, but he was there. Then came the purge. And about the time this purge came through me, this thunderstorm rolled through Costa Rica. Thunderstorms in Costa Rica are unlike anything I have ever experienced in my life. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail because it's in my book. There's a whole chapter dedicated to this, but I'll give you kind of an overview. I remember that purge came, and at the same time, the thunder and the lightning was coming through, and it was like I was getting rid of all that poison out of my body. The next day, they call it your gray day or your down day. I like introspection because gray or down sounds kind of negative. It was a beautiful day of introspection where I just kept getting these downloads. But I had no more withdrawals. It was amazing. And I have not been on antidepressants in over 10 years from that day. I haven't had a call or a desire or a need to even go back to them. I did microdose iboga for a while just to kind of, I don't know if it was necessarily because I needed to, or if it was a crutch, or if it was helpful, but I did. Then I met my husband,
Yeah.
and my husband was really curious about iboga. He's a Vietnam veteran with PTSD, and we had read that iboga was amazing for PTSD as well. We found a place called Iboga Soul in Canada. And when I talked to the shaman Mark about my experience with Iboga before, he said, why don't we go in and look at why you needed those antidepressants? So he said, it's amazing you got off of them, but the real work is knowing why you needed them to begin with. So we went to Canada and did 2 rounds. My intention was to find out what was creating this need for me to be on these antidepressants. And it was fear. It was the fear that I allowed to really dictate. My husband's walking in. He's got some grocery bags. How much fear ruled my life, how much fear played in my decision making. And so I really got to witness, and it's in the book. It's a pretty intense story, but I really got to see firsthand how fear playing in the background influenced my choices, my decisions, my mindset, everything. And it was a pretty powerful experience to be able to get off of them and look at the fear.
Do you think you would have had those questions had it not been for the iboga?
I don't know that I would have made it through, those withdrawals and facing more withdrawals had I not had hope in finding something that could help me get off of them.
Do you have those same fears now? Did you even realize how afraid you were, how fearful
I
you
had
were?
no idea. I thought I was brave and bold and not careless, but I thought I was pretty brave. I mean, I was doing things in my community and I'd have people say, "Oh, you are so brave. I can't believe you brought this to, this community or whatever." But fear doesn't have to look loud. Just to give you an example, when I was teaching yoga in my wellness studio, I would talk to people a lot about this tape that plays in the background. And I had done a really good job of turning the volume down on the voice and the negativity and the fear that I wasn't hearing it, but it still had its control over me. Being able to face it face to face and see just how powerful it was through my experience with the iboga shifted and changed a lot for me. It's been a big step in me moving from performance and people pleasing and taking on the roles and the beliefs of who I should be. I moved to Panama 2.5 years ago. I honestly don't think that I could have made that move had it not been for me addressing my fears.
That's big. Do you think the fear
And
that
can you hear that crackling?
no.
Okay, good.
Do you think the fear you were feeling was impacting your personal relationships?
Absolutely. That fear kept me from shining. It kept me from being me. It kept me from showing up in my fullness. Kept me trying to prove my value, trying to be who I thought others wanted me to be so that I wouldn't be abandoned. But really, it didn't. To myself, it's like, oh, this is who they need me to be. This is who I'm supposed to be. Because if I'm not this, then I won't be accepted. I won't be loved. And I was creating this false person and not allowing people to really get to know me because I didn't know who I was. So
You're living more like in your purpose now? Like at what you feel you were meant to do?
I'm feeling more, I'm living more in line with who I am, not who others expect me to be.
Feel like living that way.
Yeah. So I've gone from, I always kind of had this mind knowing of that, but I didn't have the body knowing. And it's one thing to know it up here, it's another thing to embody it. And now I've gone from mind knowing to body knowing to actually living that knowing. And that's what I'm stepping into right now is living that knowing, living that shining, living that authenticity and not hiding behind this mask of bravado and not connecting. Because what it also prevented me from doing was it prevented me from connecting with you, but it also made me better than you. And that's fear, because if I'm not better than you, then I'm less than. And I don't see that anymore. I used to think that there's this self-proclaimed popular group of kids that I wanted to be a part of. In order to be a part of that, I had to be better than others or better than them, but and still was never, accepted or a part of that crowd. And now I've gotten to a point where I'm no longer trying to prove my value to people who don't value me. There's not a fear around them not valuing me. They either do or they don't. There's so many subtle ways that fear can sneak in, and I recognize that it doesn't drive me anymore.
Your antidepressants, were there time were you I'm always curious about the dosing. Were you on one dose for a long time or did you have to titrate up?
I was on it for 15 years,
A long time.
a long time. I don't know what dose I was on because it's been over 10 years. It was enough that I could cut it in half and then into a quarter. I was on it for 15 years and I had tried many times to get off and I just couldn't. The brain zaps for me were the scariest part because I would just be having a conversation or driving and it was like an electric volt went through my head. And it would cause me to go, whoa, what was that?
Very.
It's very scary.
And have people in your life noticed the change in you? Have noticed the difference?
Oh, absolutely. And with that comes some. Have you read that book, Who Moved the Cheese? Okay.
Yes.
So I've moved the cheese for a lot of people. And there are folks that embrace the change, and there are those that don't because I'm not who they expect me to be, want me to be, need me to be, think I should be. I'm a grandmother and I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old grandson. And then I have a 1-year-old granddaughter. 2.5 years ago, my husband and I moved out of the country. A lot of people did say to us or to me, how can you leave your grandkids? Well, I'm not leaving my grandkids. I mean, I still have a relationship. My grandsons just came down a couple weeks ago and I'm surfing now and I got to surf with him, which was amazing. I'm not holding on to some of these constructs and ideas of who I should be because I am less fearful of who I truly am. And there are people that I think that's either threatening to it goes against what they believe, what they stand for, what they're holding on to. There was a time, a couple of times when people say, I don't even know who you are anymore. Good. Because I'm not that person anymore. I did leave my 36-year marriage after I got off the antidepressants. I knew that if that was a decision I needed to have clarity and not be numbed out by the medication. Antidepressants lower the sadness and depression, but they numb everything. I wasn't feeling even joy. I felt like I was on autopilot. Just as I see videos of myself during that time and very unemotional, very, even keel. And what I realized coming off of them is that not only did I not know how to feel, I never learned how to feel. So I've been learning what it means to truly feel my emotions. And in the process, not only has my joy gotten stronger, it's like all the emotions I feel on such a stronger and deeper level. And I think for a long time, I felt like if I gave into that sadness, if I gave into that anger or whatever it was I was feeling, it would take over and I would spiral out of control and get lost in those feelings. I teach a program called Riding the Waves of Emotion, which is learning how to sit with our emotions and not feed the emotions. All emotions are messengers. When you numb them out, you're not getting these messages. What's important to you? What's not safe? Whatever it is that those emotions are trying to share. And it's the, and I often labeled, anger as a bad emotion. It's not the anger that's a bad emotion. It's the action we associate with the anger. I can feel anger and not become angry and not act out on that anger. There's a tool called the emotions wheel that I was introduced to, and it really helps you move from saying I'm angry to really fine tuning what exactly it is that you're feeling. I don't remember how many emotions are on this wheel, but they say there's 1,300 different emotions. It's no wonder we don't know what we're feeling because there's so many. This tool has helped me go from saying I feel sad to I'm feeling abandoned, or really go deeper into what the emotion is. When I can name it, it's the difference from me saying, "Hey, you," to me saying, "Hey, cat."
Yeah.
They feel seen.
Yeah.
And then looking at the ways that I allow those emotions to spiral out of control is by the stories I tell myself about what's happening. We're meaning making machines, right? Trying to make meaning out of, instead of just going, wow, I'm really feeling sad, and noticing where I'm feeling it and sitting with it. I would say, even my sense of gratitude is greater, more embodied. It's not like, oh, I feel grateful for this. I really feel it in my body now.
Powerful, because so often you hear, oh, write a gratitude list, be grateful. But I wonder how many people actually know
It feels like,
because it's a powerful emotion to feel. And I like how you said, instead of just saying, I'm sad, I'm abandoned, or I'm feeling vulnerable. Sad is a valid feeling, it's a valid emotion, but I wonder how many people are feeling other things and just know the word sad.
I had an experience about a year ago where I was in a ceremony. I had this overwhelming sadness come up, and I felt it in my body, but I couldn't access it. I came home later, picked up the wheel, and I was able to pinpoint what I was feeling. I can't remember now exactly what it was at the time. And when I went from just the sadness through the tone of the emotion to exactly what it was I was feeling, it was like, phew.
Did you feel it in your body?
Yeah, I felt it. I felt it stuck. And I used to think that we want to feel our emotions so we can move them out of our bodies. I don't feel that anymore. I feel we want to feel our emotions so that they don't have a stronghold in our bodies, because they're a part of us. They're not storms to survive. They're they are, sorry, when I have a headache, I have a hard time.
Okay.
They're not storms, they're messengers. And so when we can go, wow, okay, this is really what I'm feeling. What is this trying to tell me? What do I need to do in order to move from a place of dis-ease to a place of ease so that this emotion doesn't have control over me?
Curious, did you ever share with your doctors about your experience with iboga?
Yeah, I can't recall if I did or not. I might have, and I probably did when I told them I got off of it and how, because there was no shame or embarrassment for me to say this is what I did and how I got off of it, because it was so powerful. I'm so thrilled to see Texas, and I'm sure other places in the States are looking at iboga as a treatment for addiction and PTSD, because it's a very powerful, powerful plant.
Talk about fear, how fear was the underlying root cause that led you to antidepressants. And then I began to think, like, when medical professionals hear like the alternative route that you took, they're afraid, and they kind of put that fear on the patient, like, oh my God, you can't try that. And then it's like, you stay kind of stuck in things. And medication does have its purpose at times, but I think overall it's overused. And I feel sometimes like we've gotten fear even just subliminally sent us, for the doctors, like, no, you can't. That's dangerous. But
Oh,
then look,
think about
yeah,
I don't know how old you are, but when I was younger, there was TV commercials on this is your brain on drugs. I mean, it
yeah,
started back long, long time ago
yeah.
for us to have this, and I probably was very much anti use of this type of medication. My son is the first one who introduced me, but he had an experience with a psychedelic. I remember him telling me about it, and this was 10 years before I did iboga. It kind of put a bug in my ear, to it so that when the opportunity, because I say the medicine finds you. You don't go looking, it finds you. So it's like he put a bug in my ear so that when the opportunity came to explore it and use it for my benefit, I was curious. I really stayed curious about it when he shared the experience with me. Whereas before I would have been very judgmental and, oh, no, this is bad. And, but I stayed curious. And so when it presented itself as an alternative to getting off of antidepressants, I continued to be curious about it. And that curiosity allowed me to have the experience that I did instead of judging it as wrong or bad.
Was it important when you took the iboga that you let yourself not judge yourself, that you just let yourself have the experience, whatever it was going to be?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And any good facilitator is going to set and setting is so important in these experiences. If you go into this experience judging yourself, that's probably where the medicine's going to take you to really look at where that judgment is coming from. So being curious about it. I didn't go in judging myself at all. I was like, okay, this is a possibility. Let's see what happens. I had no expectations, really had no idea. I didn't have anybody I could talk to about this. No one in my realm or world would have been open
You
and be
know,
like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go to a foreign country and take a plant medicine from Africa.
I can imagine you're like, is she all right?
Yeah, they would have, and I did blog about it, and I wish I could find those blogs. That website is like, I'm sure it's somewhere on the deep dark web, but I blogged the whole experience from cutting it in half to finding the place in Costa Rica each day, and then days and weeks after the experience. But I don't know how to find those blogs. When I wrote this book, I was able to recall certain things that happened, and I did find a few things that I had written on my computer that I was able to pull and put into the book to share the experience in a little more detail.
You have a community now, like an online community. You're, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I have one on school.
Okay.
It's called An Invitation to Shine. And then I also have a private women's group on Facebook called An Invitation to Shine. I'm trying to get everybody over to school though, because I can share my slideshows and we can do group calls. And so there's more things I can do on school. It's free. There are levels. The more involved you are, the more things will open up for you. I'll be a lot more active on it once my book comes out because I want to have calls and discussions around the book. So I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
When does your book come out?
Ah, good question. I'm hoping January 1st. Yeah, well, I've been working on it for 2 years. It was supposed to have been out December 2nd. The formatting is taking longer, and I was reaching my capacity, and it was getting stressful. So I said, okay, you know what? It doesn't have to come out. I'm not married to this date. So I changed it and then changed it again.
Okay.
My website right now is kimberhardick.com, Hardick. And invitationtoshine.com actually will take you to my school group. Eventually, it's going to be its own landing page for the book. Hopefully, January 1st. I know sometime in January. I just got the workbook formatted. It's beautiful. I'm super excited. In the workbook, there are guided meditations in each chapter, there's questions, and you don't have to have read the book. to use the workbook, but the workbook will take you deeper into the book itself.
What does it mean to you when you see someone shine? Like when they strip away whatever was holding them back or in their addiction? What is that like for you to see that?
To see someone shine means they see their own value. They're not looking outside of themselves to be valued. They remember who they are. As we come into this lifetime, we take on stories and beliefs of who we are, and we forget at our essence who we truly are. It's a process of forgetting what we've learned so that we can remember who we are. When I see someone shining, you know, that they're confident in themselves. They value themselves. They are not concerned, and I don't wanna send, because there's still parts of me that are like, "Oh, what are people gonna say?" But it doesn't drive the boat. I can notice, okay, I'm a little worried what someone might say about that chapter or whatever, but then I step back and go, "Well, then they're not my people," you know? So no longer proving my value or wanting people that don't value me to jump on board with me is not realistic. Kathy Griffin is someone who, to me, emulates someone who is shining and stands for what she believes in. She has been through hell and back, and she's still showing up strong. And you don't have to be a celebrity to be shining. I've had to look at all the ways that I dimmed my light, which is not speaking my truth, shrinking to keep from pissing someone off, or my favorite, when things get uncomfortable, to leave. To be able to, stand and stay in difficult conversations without carrying that other person's discomfort. Finding ease in my body, honoring my capacity has been big, because when I don't honor my capacity, I'm not shining. I take on too much. There's this paradigm where you have your comfort zone, your stretch zone, and your panic zone. This was introduced to me a little over a year ago, and I love it. Our comfort zone is a place we go to recover, to rest. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. Growth happens in the stretch zone. But then you have your panic zone. Growth doesn't happen in the panic zone. And that's when we're not honoring our capacity. I've got to a point now where I notice when I'm getting closer to my panic. My stretch zone has gotten bigger as I've worked on increasing my capacity. So now when I get to the edge of that stretch and I'm about to step into panic, I can usually catch myself. I had something come up with the book and I found myself in the panic zone, and I was like, "How did I get here again?" And I didn't beat myself up. I was like, "Okay, there you go. Let's back up." In the care of my mother, I've really had to honor my capacity and stay within that stretch, because when I get into panic, she gets into panic, everybody gets into panic. And I did also realize that when I first moved to Panama, I'm retired, I'm an artist. I was still doing my art, but I wasn't in the galleries. I was doing it for myself. I realized I was in the comfort zone and getting too comfortable. Recognizing that and allowing myself to get back into the stretch zone and finding out my purpose. I think I'd forgotten my purpose, really, is what happened in Panama in that comfort zone. And, it's great for a while, but it just like panic, I don't think it's sustainable, not if you want to thrive and grow. Surfing has been a great way for me to really step into my stretch zone. And occasionally I get into panic out there, but not very often. I really try to honor my capacity on the board.
I think surfing is like a beautiful analogy for what you've been through.
Oh, it is folded up into all of my teachings: surfing, riding the waves of emotion, honoring capacity, living with intention. I always bring it back to surfing because you have to be present. I intake my surroundings, my mindset, my body set, the environment set, all of that before I set my intention to go out onto the board. And then I do an integration of the experience. Once I've gone out on the board, then I can go back and go, okay, this worked well. This didn't work quite so well. So let's shift. How can I shift? And so then I do an intake again and I go back out. It's probably the first thing that I've done in my life that I didn't feel like I had to master, that I'm just enjoying the process. And that's been really fun.
I would never know what's going to happen.
You never know. I don't have the capacity to go out and hit a 6-foot wave. I have the capacity for the whitewash, and occasionally I can do a small green wave. Sometimes it takes me and throws me around. Even just getting past the break for me, it feels like a metaphor of life, getting through, standing my ground. Sometimes she just beats the shit out of me. I'm out the surfboard, but then I can get through it.
Yeah.
And I feel strong. Makes me feel strong.
Imagine not having that fear there hold you back. I don't think you would have attempted surfing while you were on your medication.
Well, it's funny you say that because the first time I ever tried surfing was when I was in Costa Rica, and I wasn't able to pop up on the board. I didn't have the flexibility, and I had been doing yoga for 15 years, but I didn't have the flexibility to pop up on the board. So when I tried it again 10 years later, I found I had a lot more flexibility because I had been doing a lot of emotional healing and releasing, and my hips have opened up. I can do a full squat with my heels on the ground that I've never been able to do before. I really believe it's from creating space in my body through the work I've been doing.
So you frame emotions. They're not to be scared of. They're like guideposts, little messengers. It can be scary when you're feeling deep emotions like vulnerability or grief, like, oh my God, I'm going to sit in this forever. And I think for what you shared, my group, this has the capacity to really make a shift for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think I have that emotion wheel on my computer, and maybe I can share it on the screen. Let's see. Be clear.
Beautiful picture on your website.
You.
It's like your arms are up in the air and you got this beautiful white.
My husband had turned 75 last year. We eloped when we got married. We did a birthday celebration for him and renewed our vows. I think that picture you're talking about, I was doing a dance for him in front of our community.
Ooh, I love that.
And I had on I think they call it a kaftan. It's a Moroccan robe or whatever. And I had taken it off. I wasn't actually stripping, although some people thought and hoped that I might. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Let's see if I can share. Let me see. How do I share my screen? And I can show you this emotion wheel. Share. How do I share? Nope, that's not it. Do you know how to share the?
I don't know what it looks like on your screen, but on mine, if you touch the bottom, there's a thing that says share on it.
Right. Sharing is not turned on. Okay, that's to share the meeting. I don't want to share the meeting. Let's see. Or transfer, captions, transcript. I don't want that. I've seen people do it. I've just never done it myself.
Different options for me, like screen, photos.
Choose a video setting. Maybe if you turn sharing on, would that allow me to share?
Okay, most tools. Let's see. Meeting setting.
I wonder if I can send it to you in a message and then you can share it.
Yeah, you can send it to me and I can share it.
Okay, let's see. How do I do that? A GIF, message everyone. Yeah, it's not allowing me to grab a picture here either, I don't think. Nope. Yeah, that's not what we want here. I don't know how to do that, but let me open it up and let's start with you were saying, I think sadness,
There's sadness I feel is like an umbrella sometimes.
right?
Like,
So under sadness, we have so there's three, there's like, it's like a color wheel, an artist color wheel. So under sadness, we have guilty, abandoned, despair, depressed, lonely, or bored. So which one of those might be calling you?
depressed.
Depressed? And then in depressed, we go to inferior or empty.
Wow. Much different than just sad.
Right. Exactly.
Deeper than just, because when you just say sad, you don't get to the root of it. It's just, I'm sad.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really getting more personal with the emotion. And
Right. That's where the
finding out.
healing comes in, because you can actually name the actual, like, you can start asking more questions.
Yeah. I do have a thing I created, I think. Let me look. Oh yeah, I did. It's through ChatGPT. And so I created a kind of a prompt for working with emotions. Let me go into it so I can be more specific here with you. Riding the waves of emotion is what it's called. So some of the prompts, it says, can we explore what I'm feeling right now? Can we unpack it? What's the empowered side of this emotion? And how do I mirror map between these feelings? You can ask it anything, or you can hit one of the prompts that I've created, and then it'll take you through to help you really fine tune. We can do it together if you want. What would you like for me to put in here?
As far as emotion,
You can ask a question or use one of the prompts that I just gave you. Can we explore what I'm feeling right now? I think I'm masking something. Can we unpack it? Sometimes we put on a happy face when really we're feeling something else, or we use anger instead of sadness. We use some emotions as masks for what we're truly feeling. What's the empowered side of this emotion? And how do I mirror map between these feelings?
the masking one.
Okay. I think I'm masking something. Can we unpack that? And he says, absolutely. We can take this slowly. You said you think you're masking something. Let's start right where you are. No pressure to name it perfectly, but what emotion do you think might be underneath? Not what you're showing or saying, but the feeling that might be trying to speak from underneath the mask. If you'd like, here are a few prompts to gently check in with yourself. What am I pretending is fine that really isn't? Is there a part of me that's trying to stay in control, but staying light, calm, nice, or together? When was the last time I felt safe enough to drop the performance? Mapping the mask. And this is from a workbook that I created. The workbook explores how emotions can show up as masks, like joy masking sadness. If I smile, maybe no one will notice I'm hurting. Anger covering fear. If I lash out, I don't have to admit I'm scared. Numbness replacing vulnerability. If I shut down, I don't risk rejection. Do any of these feel close to what's happening for you right now? If you're unsure, that's okay. We can mirror map together. Let's try a soft mapping exercise. Close your eyes for a moment, if that feels okay. What's the emotion you're allowing others to see? What's the emotion you aren't letting show? Now imagine them across from each other like mirrors on the emotion wheel. You don't have to resolve them, just let them both exist. Would you like to journal this out or feel into it somatically? I can guide you through either. And if you're not sure what's behind the mask yet, that's okay too. Just naming the possibility of a mask is a real and tender kind of truth. So it's like having a personalized journal prompt. I'll send you a chat here. And then once you open this up in ChatGPT, it'll always be over in your sidebar.
Okay. I see it.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that I don't lose that. anything else that you want
To say,
to know about you or your book?
yeah, I think it's important that more of us realize that we're not broken, that we're not something to fix or control. We do have all the wisdom and knowledge that we need. We just have to trust that it's there. My purpose right now has been to give women a space to remember who they are, to rewrite their stories from a place of being a victim or a villain to a place of empowerment. I was talking to someone the other day, and a lot of the women I work with right now are in their 30s and 40s. I really thought it would be more women in midlife. But what I realized is they're the same age I was when I started down this healing journey. I wish I'd had me going through that to guide me, to hold my hand, to let me know that I wasn't crazy and that I was going to get through it.
I think it's beautiful because often in our culture, women are pitted against each other.
Exactly. Yeah. What I'm really glad you said that, because what my real goal is in my women's circles to create space where women remember what it's like to support other women and what it feels like to be supported by other women. That's what I'm creating in my women's groups, in my circles. I don't do a lot of that online just yet. My book has been my focus, but when I tell people that, even some of the men have been like, "Oh, well, that's a big ask."
Hi.
That's a big ask. But, really having someone emulate what that looks like, and most of us haven't had that. And I have a coach that I'm working with, and I'm learning how to be in the present of big emotions by watching how he holds space for me. If I can emulate what it means to support you, to support other women, you then know what it feels like, what it looks like, so that you can then do it for other women.
It's beautiful ripple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the waves again. It goes on and on and on.
And so I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to be like a guru. I'm trying to create a community. I want you to bring your gifts to the table. I want you to take what I shared that works for you and go off and create your own small group. So, like my women's group in Panama, I have 10 to 20 of them in there, but eventually I want them to then go start their own women's group so that we go from being 10 to being 100. And then from that, they each go and so it does become a ripple effect. And we start sharing what it looks like, what it feels like to emulate supporting each other and not seeing each other as competition.
I think it's beautiful when you see women supporting other women.
That is.
I think it's because that was a foreign concept to me for a long time. Like what that even looked like. Like you said, we're not shown it a lot.
Mm-mm.
And then if you show it, they put a weird spin on it. You know what I mean? It's not just women supporting women, whether it's a new mother or whatever. They put a weird spin on it when it takes away from what we as women can share. No, I think it's beautiful, the magic and the shining we can create when we hold space for each other, remember who we are and lift each other up, not just look through the lens of comparison. You know, I think that's so important. I think women sometimes get a really bad name. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of us are just like, what, like, can't speak for all women, but fear is in there. And I think it's beautiful how you're living your authentic self. You live in Panama. That's so cool. And look what you're doing. You surf, you're a grandma, you travel, and you're writing your
Others, hopefully, what's possible.
That's beautiful because you said you were tired of living this way and you're like, there's got to be more, you know? And that's beautiful to like take a shot at taking like a psychedelic in another country and it just peels away all these layers. Now look what you've created, which sounds very organic to me. It doesn't sound like any of this is forced.
What I realized just recently is that I didn't write this book for anyone other than myself. And while I am putting it out there, I'm not relying on everybody to love it for me to feel successful. I have succeeded in writing this book, putting it together, and then putting it out there. I've been at this threshold before where I've created something and then I had all these reasons why not to, the commitment, the imposter syndrome, whatever it was. So taking this from conception to actually putting it out there as much for me as for anybody. I know that those women and men, because 3 men that read my book and one of them wrote the foreword to my book. You know, they always say niche down. So I niche down, but it's not limiting because there's a lot in there that men can understand. I paid a professional editor to edit this book, and she did a fabulous job in helping me tie everything together. Then I sent it off and I just wanted a line edit. I just wanted him to make sure that every T was crossed and I was dotted. I get it back. And it was a man that did this. He put words in my mouth. He completely changed the meaning of some of the things that I said. I was appalled. I was horrified. And I thought, how often does that happen where women's voices are taken and a man comes in who hasn't done the work, who doesn't understand, and says it can't possibly be this way, especially on the section on my sexual awakening, because section 2, to have him come in. And so I sent it to my who's my coach, and he was furious. And I was like, I'm really not mad. I'm glad I caught it. But it also shows me the ambiance of this work, the importance of this work, and how easily someone can read something based on their lens, their story, and misinterpret. So, yeah, it was really interesting. I might actually do it because I saved his edit, and of course, I have my original, and I might go through and pull out all the things that he said I said versus what I said, just, learn from it.
It's kind of like sacred territory. Some things you can edit, and that's not one of those things that you can really edit. That's your truth. Your coach was right. It highlights how important this work is.
Yeah.
Why it's so neat. And I feel like there's a shift happening with women in general.
Mm. So I'm gonna ask you to do me a favor. I've got to go to the bathroom.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
I'm back. Drank too much coffee and water this morning.
No, I don't think. I have 3 beverages going on at all time.
I have so enjoyed visiting with you.
I have too. This has been wonderful.
I don't feel like I want to get to a place where I'm going, oh no, I'm going to go with them, but I'm not going to go with them. I feel like sharing and talking and getting things out, even if it may not necessarily be in my niche, there is going to be my niche within every podcast and opportunity that I have.
It'll hit who it needs to hit, land with who it needs to land. I am very grateful for your time because I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. There's no story too small, no story too big. I think your story is so profound. Though I haven't read the book, I look forward to reading the book. I think it's, I'm just grateful that you took the time to talk with me today and talk about your experience and your book and shared vulnerably. And you speak you're so eloquent how you talk too. And you seem like a very graceful woman, and the way you speak about lifting other women up. These are big topics that I think are so important to talk about.
It's interesting. Years ago, I was given a medicine name from one of my teachers, Golden Bear. She told me the history of Golden Bear, that the woman who originally had the name had passed away and she was this magical medicine woman. She told me that if I found myself in the community announcing myself as Golden Bear, that I might get looks from people, well, that's not Golden Bear. Or because she said, I don't usually give a name that's already been given. And that those felt like really big shoes for me to step into. She told me a few years later that Golden Bear rang true to her because I remind her of Winnie the Pooh. I say a lot with few words. And I love that because I always thought I needed to be bigger with my words to get the message across. The fact that she saw me in that way made it easier for me to carry the name Golden Bear.
And like, who doesn't love Winnie the Pooh?
Right? Exactly.
And Winnie the Pooh was always just he was never loud.
Mm-mm.
He was always gentle and just like kind of like the glue You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I
And,
love
and
that.
you had asked me earlier what it means to shine. The book is an invitation to shine from invisible to invincible. And it doesn't mean being loud to shine. It doesn't mean being obnoxious. It just means being present and seeing yourself. I've started this practice recently, whereas when I would walk into a room of people, I think there's a part of me that was like, oh, see me, talk to me. I want to tell you this. If you walk in with a sense of abundance, knowing what you have to offer, not what you have to prove, we are designed to receive energy. So when you walk into a room with a sense of abundance, that I don't need you to see me, I don't need you to acknowledge me, I don't need you to call on me or come spend time with me. If you do, it's great. And so I've been practicing that, and it's been amazing the way I've been received. I was telling my husband this. I said, I kind of feel like you. It's everywhere we go, people are drawn to him like a magnet. I realize because he doesn't need to be seen, he doesn't need to be acknowledged, but he knows what he has to offer, and he has a lot to offer. People tap into that and are drawn to it. So that's been a fun practice.
It is true though. If you come from a place of abundance, you don't need to
Mm,
prove or be there.
No.
You know, I think that goes back to coming back to who you are
Mhm.
as yourself. You don't need to be constantly
Proving.
proving, or you're also not living in a place of fear because
No.
you're in abundance. And abundance doesn't mean like financial. It means, it means like,
Right. Energetically
yeah.
abundant.
And I think you can tell the difference when you meet someone who's living that versus having to prove something to everybody, which is
Yeah.
impossible.
Which is a sense of lack, not enough. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
I hope your headache feels better.
It feels a little bit better.
I hope
Yeah.
I didn't add to it.
No,
It's been lovely to talk to
I
you
look
so
forward
much.
to seeing this. And yeah, if you could send me the recording, because what I'll do is I'll just pull different clips.
Absolutely,
And
I'll send it to you. I'll download it and send it to you, both the audio and the video,
okay.
to your email that I have. I'll work on that. Say thank you so much.
Thank you for
so,
having me.
Thank you so much.